Now live. Oh shit. Always helps if you get the mic out. A pizza cutter. First order of business. A small, the smaller of the pizza cutters. I was over at the Woodcraft store today, and this is a small one. This is the I want to say 2.5 inch one. That's what they said it was. Said it was? Yeah, 2.5 miniature pizza cutter. They don't seem to have the mentality of something in between would be good. You go from 2 inches to 4 inches. And I did a class with the 4 inches, and I'm like, these things are huge. I had no interest in making them myself, for myself, put it that way. So I figured I'd try a 2.5. Something different for in the store. This is even a piece of curly maple. At least it has some curl to it anyhow. Get it down to the round, then go from there. How are you? What are you going to demo? What are you going to do? As far as I know, I should be there. Oh, yeah. Lots of curl in it. Almost there. Now we're there. There's a little bit left there. Some really lovely curl in it. At least part way around. And probably shorten. This blank's about 6 inches long, which I think that was their instructions. It said it should be 6 inches long. I think that's too long for me for what it is. Six-sided. Okay. Well, that'll be something different. Keep looking around the corner because there's a mark down there. I don't exactly get a straight line with a skew right there for that one. These don't really have a, I wouldn't call it a ferrule. They do have a bit of a flat spot in there, on there. So I want to get down close to it. I have a pencil line down there. You can't see, but I like the simple shape for these for the most part. But we need a cove up here. Cove sweet tortoise. I find that much easier just to get rid of a lot of that material. With the gouge versus the skew, or at least that part of it. And then we can go back to the skew. You never get any better with the skew unless you use it. So that's a bit too high. Okay, that sounds interesting. I've been doing pretty good at making it on Wednesday night. I was there this past Wednesday night, and I did send a message that I had something to show, but they kind of got sidetracked on their the level up thing, so never got never got around to me. It looks a little bit, still looks a bit on the fat side. Probably fat down here too. I can't do that. My wife and I have a difference of an opinion on these, this kind of stuff. I think they should be a little beefier than what she does. So I think it should be more like about 5 inches long and not 6. I think that's where I'm going to mark off down here. Be a little gentler. Use the spindle gouge up here. Does have curl in it, so I don't want to be too, definitely don't want to be too aggressive with it. Or it'll cause ourselves some real aggravation. As in, might actually have to sand a little bit more. We don't want to do that. I try. What time do they start? I thought they started at 7 o'clock, our time. I logged on right at, I think right at 7. Oh, okay. I never knew it was that early. That's I'll have to try harder then. Yeah, a little material on the road. Oh, okay. I'll have to keep that in mind. 'Cause for me, I'm generally usually down here in my shop anyhow. Too pointy. I wonders when you work with any of this stuff that's got these really big ripples in it, it's almost very hard. It's cut cleanly, but it's definitely I can feel the ripples in there. Not necessarily what I wanted. And this thing, that's just brilliant. All right, good enough for government work. So, as always, I got to do a little sanding. I'm gonna go open the right blast detail. I had a good one yesterday. I was down here working and doing some stuff on my joiner, which is on the other side. And I turned around and looked back in this direction, which would be where the dust collector is at, is behind me. Next thing I see little wood chips flying through the air, and I'm like, what in the world? And here there's, that's a 1.5 horse dust collector, so it has a 2 foot long piece of hose that goes from the impeller up into the cyclone part of it. That sucker split almost in half. And I'm like, that's just weird. I got a bunch of tape on it, but I did get a new hose today. That's why one of the reasons I stopped at Woodcraft. And I'm like, I've owned dust collectors for probably 30 some years. The last couple of them that I've had always has the same little 2 foot long piece of hose on it. Never had one of them break. I don't really need to have another one break, although now I have. You can't go buy 2 feet of dust collection hose. So now I have 10 feet of 5-inch hose, which anything that I would ever use it for will be on there. I still didn't take the time to replace it yet. That'll be a tomorrow project or another day. This will be a dye project too. Knock them corners off right there. So I'm thinking I want it, for whatever reason, I'm thinking orange is the color. At least that's what I'm thinking. So 220, we'll hit 320 yet, and then we'll start dyeing it. So I might go down the path of a little bit of black first, and then we'll sand back through that. Get some gloves. Give it a little shot of alcohol. This one would probably just look neat just by itself without adding color to it even. I think I remember you talking about that. Mine in my shop, I mean, other than that, I mean, there's a little bit of flex hose. There's some right here. There's some at almost all the machines. Otherwise, what I've done is used a 4-inch PVC pipe, which is a sewer pipe, thin walled sewer. It's a thin walled PVC, which is a you'll find for the sewer. Oh, okay, but mine has that, and that was way back in the day. Um, Fellow woodworker told me about that. Um, Using the plastic PVC pipe because it's so much cheaper and less because dust collection works on the principle of airflow rather than suction like a shop vac or something like that would use. So I'll go over the end. It'll probably just stay dark down there. So that was the philosophy, and I did a fair amount of research on it as far as online or whatever, and watching different stuff. Okay, and so that's what we had found was and this was somebody else that actually had it in their shop was that as well. But he said you got to be a little bit cautious with PVC using the PVC pipe because it can create its own static and will create its own static. My gosh, I know I have an orange somewhere. I do. There it is back there. Probably making a mess by the looks of it. Yep. Knocked the lid right off of it. It was a full bottle of orange at one time. Um, so his take on it was he actually drilled little holes in the pipe about every foot or so and stuck the wire in with trying to remember what he actually used, a screw or something like that to literally push the wires towards the inside of the pipe or on the interior of the pipe. And he said that was a lot of work, but he had also talked with somebody else or knew somebody else that went down the sort of the rabbit hole or the route of um, wrapping the pipe with uninsulated back then. I think you can still get it. I don't know how expensive it would be of today, but you can go to whichever the Homey Lowe's or whatever and get just copper wire, braided copper wire that would be uninsulated. It was relatively cheap, but it takes a ton of it when you start wrapping the pipe. So all mine are wrapped in with the copper, uninsulated copper around them. And that copper runs the whole way from wherever the furthest machine is, which would be my joiner workbench, which is probably about, I don't know, maybe a 15, 16-foot run. And just looped around it. And it goes the whole way back over to the machine and is grounded back to the machine to eliminate the static buildup in it. Well, I've had other people have seen other people doing some of that stuff, and I told them about what I had found, and they're like, "No, that's a myth. I'm like, no, it's not a myth. I said, there's a lot of woodworking shops and things of that nature that have burnt to the ground because of a dust explosion. And I said, if you think it doesn't create the static electricity, go. Now, this one that comes out here, it doesn't have any wire on it. But I used to would use the planer, and it had that one there had like a 4 or 5 foot long section of just a simple dust collection hose, no grounding to it at all. And your arm got close to it. Your arm was maybe like here away, and it actually pulled the hair up on your arm. So I said that's more than enough static electricity to cause you other problems. So that's what I had did with mine. But some people don't feel that they need that. Or some people just run it the metal ducting or whatever. But whenever I was setting this, for the most part, when I was setting this up, you know, I was on a whole lot different of a budget than what I am of today. So I needed to get it done more reasonable. So now we go back through the grits. I actually did go back to 220 just to get rid of more of the black quicker. It seems like I'm leaving quite a bit of black behind. But that'll just make the orange all that much brighter. I'm going to stand a little bit harder on it yet. Lighten the black up some more. This would actually be a Jimmy Clues kind of a way of dyeing this stuff, doing this. That's exactly where I learned that number, putting the black on first or a dark color, doesn't have to be black, and then standing back through most of it. Probably shouldn't be so lazy and should take my gloves off too. You're actually taking a bit of a chance doing this because it can get these Nerdle gloves, it will get a hold of things. Not so much something like this that's round, but I'll go a little bit with the green. And one more grit. I'm going to go to 600. That's always the scenario. If you don't like it, you can just stand it back off or recut, take a little lightweight cut on something and start over. And it would not be the first time that I did such a thing as that. So one last little lick going with the grain, just to keep an eye on, especially down here on this end. I probably shouldn't have went down over that end quite so much with the coarser being the 220 sandpaper. Sort of looks like it. This will show you in a big hurry where you have scratches at, if you have scratches. So my wife will probably tell me it's not. Probably. Oh, now I'm getting outside, really thinking outside the box. I have a magenta. Hmm. It is almost Valentine's Day. Maybe we should do that instead. This magenta is sort of a, not really a purple. I don't know. It's magenta. That's what. It's sort of a reddish purple. I did an ice cream scoop in this and the girls that hang out with my wife on Zoom. It didn't last very long. They're like that time. Well, you're coming where? It was a show or something or other. Very directly after I made it, I made a couple of them. And like, no, that's mine. You just bring it along to the show. Oh, I look all right. Needs to dry. I know that the other orange is really orange. Open her towel up and let that dry. So you got to be a little careful with our paper towels and whatnot. And we'll spray it down with some more alcohol, which will, this stuff has a little bit of shellac in it. So I really what I'm after now is just to get rid of some of the shellac with as much of it as I can. Because you know me, the super glue finish is where it's at for me. So that gave me some lights and darks now. That's what we were looking for. Once it's dry, it'll all sort of look matte. And generally, once it's totally dry, which will probably take an hour or more, then I will um, give it a little light sand by hand. Got to remove this tenon part as well, and be able to sand that in. And sit this over here so I don't drop it in the sawdust. And I have that particular kit there. I'm not sure. I'm a little undecided on whether I feel that that's a good way of doing it or a bad way of doing it. But it is what it is on that. It has one of the threaded inserts in it, and the ones that's in there, actually thread in. Really big, coarse threads in it. I thought I had the right size drill bit. And I probably did on something soft, but that curly maple was real hard, really hard. I had a hard time getting it to thread in, but I mean, it went in. I cleaned up the end of it a little bit so that sits. This is just nothing more than a 5/16 bolt, because for whatever ungodly reason, they had to do that weirdness too. That should have a drawbar. And we are going to do something other than just cut that little bit off. So we'll get the drawbar for that. Because I want to cut it off as well as sand that little end off of there. Oh boy, doesn't want to pull in the threads. It's getting a couple threads. That's all we need. We don't need it to be a ton. Just to keep it. Yeah, that's what that was going to be the next scenario. It's not going to run true, of course. Because it is just a plain old bolt. Now it's going to run all kind of wonky in this area. That's okay, I think. There's not a whole lot. The other way I could do it would be to put a dead center up there. And I probably could do that as well. Just to work, because really all I'm going to do is get this down a little bit smaller and I'll just cut it off. Like I said, we're not going to get carried away there because it's considerably out of round, out of whack. So all I really wanted to do was get rid of a little bit of material. And now that last little bit, I will trim that off with a gouge. I think, I hope. And then we will just sand that little bit on the end, and we should be in good shape. Give me a paper towel. The reason I don't keeping that glove on because this even though this is alcohol-based dye, if I touch it with a bare hand like such, it's going to not be very nice. Not get your fingers in between everything. Okay. I'm not going to mess too much with that. I'll just sand that off. Much, much safer just to sand that away. I may actually just use a little bit of do a little cheater root, maybe. A little power sand on the end without it spinning. Just to get rid of the majority of it. Might actually even go and do that. That works. Now, that was 220, so now we can just do the rest of it by hand. It won't take much. Hardest place to sand is on the end anyhow. That's that. That'll work. Tiny little bit of dye. That's why you wear gloves. This dye gets, it manages to get everywhere. A little bit on the end, that's all we need. Wipe off the excess. A little bit of alcohol to blend them two together. I just put the alcohol in the paper towel a little bit. And I'll sort of blend those two together. Two sections together, rather. Like I said, dye gets everywhere, and that's, I don't know, that stuff is theirs from Craft Supply. I like their dyes. I just don't like those little. And I think they've switched because the other ones that I have, I think, are 2 ounce bottles too. Oh, they're in 1.7, but they're different. Those little bottles there, I just don't particularly care for. So now we can set that off to the side. We'll let that dry, especially there on the end grain. That's loads of alcohol on there. I generally leave them sit overnight before I go back after them. That's probably what I should do today as well. Probably shouldn't be impatient. Of course, impatient. There we go. This doesn't get used very often, the threaded rod. Should have maybe cleaned out the end of that before I did that. So hard to get that rod in and out. It worked. Like I say, only a couple threads in there is more than enough. Get my trusty bolt. Bolts generally is just used to put that threaded insert in. I think some of the other good threaded inserts, I guess you would say they are, just have they're knurled or something or other, so you just glue them in rather than these thread in. I don't know, that court's still open on that as to which one would be better holding wise. I know definitely the knurled one, as far as to put it in something, would be a whole lot easier than the threaded ones. But it's kind of neither here nor there. I was doing some work yesterday, trying to do some work. And it was going to be a lathe stand for little Jet 1221, but the yoke wasn't cooperating. This is some of my own stuff. This has some spalting and some rod in it. There's some of the other ones have some little unfriendly bugs in it. Actually, there's quite a few of them actually went to the firewood bin rather than anywhere else. Anymore, I do not mess with any of it. If it shows evidence of bugs, it generally goes in the trash. Just drilled a 2 1/8 inch hole in it. We could bring the tailstock up just because, why not? But with the size of them, I'm like, well, 5 inches. That's what them Ikebana things were a while back that I was messing around with. And we won't have another Turning Club meeting for another month yet. Because our meeting this week which will be this Tuesday, is the farm show. So that's where, rather than having a meeting, it'll be just the meeting will actually come from the farm show, so to speak, which is where I will be on Tuesday. So we didn't even cut it round, we just cut it round. A little gentle. Oak has a very big tendency to split and carry on. Work on my left hand and turning it away. I'm not standing in front of it. So when them big splinters decide to come off, they're not going to hit me in the head. Close. Good enough. With a razor blade. Gonna true up this backside face a little bit. You see the lower wing basically scraping. Sharp edge. So we're round this little bit, which is all that really counts. Rest goes away anyhow. Probably could you actually make these into some little itty bitty little small bowls or something too. Oh, how bad do I have this camera messed up? Not too bad. For change. That one needs to go that way though. And out a bit. That'll work. Now we have things balanced up so we can go to the speed that we want to turn on. Get rid of the corner. Getting a little closer to the bowl shape. Do need a tenant. Let's go. Let's go kind of big for the tenant in a way. We'll just incorporate that. That will become the foot as well. Well, I think this one we're going to do, I'm sort of stuck on this shape of um, the return, sort of the return curve at the top. Should be good enough. The rest of it we'll do with the scraper and that part. I'm pretty sure that's what I did with them before. Gotta do something up here anyhow. It took a place where that was a little punky anyhow. Took a fairly good sized chip out of there. I'm just sort of using the natural curve of the bowl guide. Need to get down closer to where it's right below there. And across the top. I think that could be a little deeper. Not set in stone at this point anyhow. I think I like it so far. I like I sort of like this kind of little projects that are kind of like quick and easy, down and dirty, so to speak. Probably something like this too, since it's got the big open grain. Really haven't tried it on a piece of oak, I don't think. I could actually turn one of these black and fill the grain in as well. Might look kind of interesting, I would say. To rough these up a bit so we can go to our scraper. Scraper will allow us to get right into that corner. Clean that out nicely. Curve didn't quite go into that corner though. It's almost like cheating using a scraper though, I tell you that. You can get a really, really nice finish off of it. Less sanding. Less sanding is always a good thing in my book. It's gonna be fine. Go around here and do something with the bottom a little bit. Give it a little bit of a decoration. Make sure that it's undercut a little bit. Do the same thing. Left a little snotty mark in the middle. Really haven't tried doing anything with the oak as far as to texture it though. Not too deep. skew will allow me in that corner a little easier. That'll work. Knock the corner sharp edge off again. Just a little round to it, roundness to it. I'm going to sink that point in there a little bit. Drop the handle and rotate a little bit. It gave me a nice sort of little rounded bead in there to grab onto. That's only about 1/8 of an inch thick. More than enough. Now, as usual, we're back to sand. Favorite pastime, right? We're going down to the Tennessee Symposium in a couple weeks, which should be fun. Also means I get to go down and visit with my sandpaper guy. Almost looks like I should just get all new right off the bat. I do need to restock some of it. Oh, 50, okay. So hopefully, it looks like we should be able to. Should be able to start with 150. That's a little backup pad there. I think the Velcro is finally wearing out on that. It's not that one. It's this one here. For whatever reason, I think I only have one of the pistons sort of a straight pad for the desanding disc for 2 3/8 rather than the normal 2. No, this is actually oak, red oak. Oh, we have the wrong disc there. That's 100. Huh, don't need that. Yeah, this is just red oak. This started out as some 8-quarter lumber that I got quite a few years ago. This pad is just about seen its days. Well, hopefully it turns out all right. Stop and look. More importantly, the wonders of power sanding, you can't get in tight against things as tight as you would like. But we still have a little bit of hand sanding we're going to have to do right up against this little foot. and as well as the foot itself. I was telling Al earlier, I said this, I've never tried it, I've always used the ash, but this would be another candidate for doing some of the coloring or turning it black generally, and then using some of the grain filler on it. I thought that yesterday when I got some of this stuff out, or determined that it wasn't good enough to use for what I want, what it was originally intended for. It wasn't intended to be a wood turning kind of a wood. It's going to be more of a practical use for it, for a different use. So we'll give it a whirl. See what it looks like on the inside. I don't know if I'm going to dye it to be on the outside. Problem with doing well, if I turn this into one of them Ikibanas though, I can dye and do all that once it's pretty well complete, I think. Because it does have some really big grain in it. Definitely has possibilities of doing just what I said, a little darken it up, and then we'll go from there. Done with the noisemaker. So we'll flip it around and we'll do inside. Held by 2 1/4, 2 1/8, I guess it is. Biggest drill, Forstner drill bit. I think it's 2 1/8. A very simple way of holding something, especially something smaller. Now, if we did things right, let's see. Get the dust out of there. Want the grain running up and down with the jaws. See where it's going to grip a hold, and it's still going to be about 1/8 of an inch. It's going to leave a mark. Very, especially in here, because you ain't gonna know the difference there. Still just a shade bit too big to not leave a mark, but it's getting pretty close. Now we can probably just go strictly to there. See more what we're doing there. So these will get this trusty little cup. It's a little metal cup that will sit in there. And if I remember right, that 2 1/8 out there is really close to what I need for the top rim. We'll just sort of start by flattening this off the top. Almost like you want the dust collector on this. Yeah, some of this, again, dry wood, so I think the last ones, I don't think I left this rim. I'm trying to think what I did. I think I left a dip in there, but I don't. Let's set the cup in place, and then we can go from there. I'm just trying to remember actually what I even did with the cup. I think I drilled a. Should have a plan before you do things. Pretty sure I drilled a hole to match the bottom. I just don't remember what size the hole was. I'll say it's 1 3/8. It's going to be close. I need to go down about 3/4 probably. Because the portion bit's going to leave a hole in the bottom. I don't care for. And there was some. This is a sort of a conglomeration between a couple different clubs. So down to about the green flares. It's a fair amount of work just to do extra work, sort of to do that in a way. But it'll make our life easier, I think. Better if I would check that. So the 1 3/8 is not quite as big as it needs to be. Eventually, but that's okay. We're going to start making that a paper. All the way to the bottom. I'll do the trusted paintbrush because it's going to leave stuff spitting. The last time I did these, I'll come up with some sort of a simple-minded way of doing it easier. For the life of me, I can't think of it right now. This is still, so I can go to taper the whole way from the very top. At this point, we have more material than what we need. So if we make a mistake, no big deal. Also switch back over to the spindle guide. It'll allow me in there a little tighter. It's also going to have to go deeper than what it is. Definitely have a lot of slop around it. Not that that's end of the world kind of a thing, because it definitely has to go deeper than what it is by quite a bit. So we'll get a square end scraper, which will allow me to go in there. Let's go to smaller loops on the scraper. Drop that down at least to the bottom, probably further deeper than the bottom of that drill dimple. Make sure we're headed downhill a little bit. It'd be so much easier if we didn't have all the chips getting in the road. Just trying to get deep enough. Of course, now once I've deepened it out, now we're getting somewhere. I think this scraper here actually has a side ground off. But I did it for more so for making the lanterns. Gotta watch because this will cut on this side. So I don't necessarily, if I didn't want it to, I would actually, yeah, it'll slide down on there. Otherwise, I'd have to move the tool rest up considerably. It's also kind of like you're almost kind of working a little bit blind in a way. Okay, so now we're almost up to the top. So we gotta make that a little wider. Try not to make the bottom any wider. Let me get rid of that little red. That actually probably would work right there. That would leave that cup sticking up. I think the last time I didn't leave the cup sticking up though. A little flattening out on the bottom. I'll drop a little recess in the top. It's always tempting to stick your fingers in there, but bad idea. Drop a little recess. Also, it's going to give me the availability. If I drop that little recess in there, and granted that recess is very small, not quite big enough yet. That recess is going to be enough of a recess in there. It's going to do two things for us. It's going to get rid of the rim of that little metal thing, but also going to be big enough recess that if I need to flip it around and do something back here, which if I go turn it to black, I will need that area. Okay, so now not quite, still not quite deep enough, but I think we have the shape. We have enough recess for it to sit down in. Not quite deep enough. So we'll go down. Hopefully out to the corner. Nice crisp corner down there. deeper. Or let's do a little bit more scientific approach and we'll actually measure it. It actually shows it's deep enough, so that means it's hitting somewhere. How you doing, bud? So we did that before with the scraper. Now we do it with the gouge. Yeah, if I could figure out where it's hitting at, it would be better. And it's still rocking on one of those, on that side out there somewhere. Evidently my eye is not very straight tonight. Yeah, it feels like there's a little ridge in the bottom. There we go. Yeah, we're cooking somewhere. Still rocks on it, but it's not. I can feel on the bottom. So our taper's still under there. See if I can see where it's. Well, it doesn't rock on anything. Gotta be down there closer to the bottom, I think. We're done with scraper, get our torus back down where it should have been. So we'll lessen the taper. This is probably why I couldn't get overly wrapped up doing too many of these. A little bit, kind of a little bit more of a farting around with them is what I like to do. Of course, I'm probably really trying to be too particular with it. If it can sit on that rim, it actually feels like that's where it's hanging up, is up on the rim. Now we're there. Got a little wiggle back and forth, which is okay, as far as I'm concerned. We could always make it go a little deeper if anything, because that's sort of now we're back to it's hitting on that little bit in the bottom. Back to the scraper one more time, hopefully. It's getting a little bit of a reach for that scraper. I had to rest just a little bit off because I wanted to. I don't want to bump in the bottom, so that's good. I wanted to start to become a little aggressive. There, now that sits in there nice and neat. So now we get to think about what we're going to do. I was thinking of turning this black and add some color to it. So this will be like a 2-week project, I guess you'd say. I think I'll make a curve from there out to that point, maybe. Try that once, see what that looks like. I like it. It's definitely a simpler shape to do. I'll give you a bigger area, bigger pattern for that once we get that far. One last check of the cup before we move on. I didn't go in and irritate anything in there. Just a little sand and knock that sharp edge over. If anything, it could actually be sort of be down in there a little bit, but I don't. I think if I keep playing around there, I'm just going to keep chasing something I don't want to be chasing. So maybe taper that. Because the underneath side of that is probably not really tapered, but it'll make it sit down in further, which it did. Doesn't really, has some movement to it, has some slop to it, which it needs to because otherwise, when it moves, and it's not an if, it's a when. So back to our favorite pastime. We don't have a really big area. The sand. And it's got nice and cleanly, so see if we can get away with just 220. Go down, go in reverse. Definitely leaving a very sharp edge up there, but I'll take care of that. I take care of that down here. That's through 400. Definitely pays to get better at what you're doing. So I use 400 sheet paper just to knock that corner. A bit touchy-feely. Knock this razor blade here off. We can sand a little bit of the inside. Inside is just what it is. It's kind of the inside. But it is oak, so it has a tendency to stand up some grain. Not really tear it or anything like that, but just act like you, in this case, it's kind of like act like you carried a little bit enough to sand just down that edge. As well as knock that sharp corner off in there. The bottom line is it gets that little cup in it anyhow, so no sense wasting a ton of time in there. Now we have a gripping point in there. So we can do the outside first, or at least do the rim part first. And fire up the airbrush. I'm kind of lazy when it comes to that. It sort of lives with a bit of alcohol in it to start with. Probably not the greatest thing, seeing as how all this is plastic, but it hasn't seemed to have eaten any of it yet. Back to gloves, because no more black fingers tonight. I should take the time to clean off my bottle a little better someday. You could dye them first if you wanted. But the bottom line is I still have to go over it with a coat of shellac to seal the grain. So I have a tendency to just cheat all the way around on that one, on that booth. And we'll turn it black. I'll probably just turn everything black inside and everything. Easier. Got a new dust collection to suck up some of the fumes. So spin it nice and slow. So I'll look for a nice even coat. Could probably do a little bit of the back here, at least at the top edge. Probably one of the good things about using an airbrush or such things as this is that you're putting on such a very light coat, so it will dry pretty quickly. Probably not that quickly though. Shouldn't touch it with dusty fingers though. Let's give it a minute. Anybody have any questions, comments? Good time as any. uh, wonders of modern technology. I don't know. My earbuds are beeping at me again tonight, so I don't know whether they're gone dead or it's probably something on my phone because they're attached to the phone. And, uh, anymore, you can't expect miracles, that's for sure. It's not drying as quickly as I would like it to, that's for sure. Doesn't really matter if I mess something up on the inside. You do that. Now we can just reach right in there and get back into that recess. Probably would look neat if we took a little bit of tape. Might be more trouble than it's worth. Got a sharp edge on the utility knife. That's a waste. Spent too long trying to. We'll just use the color marker to sign it when I'm done. Well, that's a good thing. Okay. So it's black. Going through the roof. Why are you going through the roof? Shouldn't be going through the roof. I think we'll let that spin a bit. Get rid of this black shellac out of the airbrush. This is just, I think I would consider that like a 2 pound clay. Yeah, yeah. Been there, done that more than once. Dye gets everywhere. That is for sure. And the dye colors things that you don't want it to color. Tools, lathe bed. Use my high tech cleaning station here. It's an old jug of some sort here, and just spray the alcohol or dyes or whatever right into that. Looks pretty nasty in the bottom. What did you run out and buy a new one already? So I just leave it. I generally just leave that alcohol in there. It's probably not a great idea to even do that. There's a lot of, it's turned the container and everything inside of it black, but for right now it's fine. Is that telling me my earbuds just died? Very well could be. Well, as long as something worked, I guess, right? Guess now the next scenario is where am I going to put it? Mm-hmm. The question of the day. Let's see whether it's really sticky. Okay. So it's black. Set it back here out of the road. Oh, I think you have a bit of a problem then. You gotta love the modern technology when it works. So, while that's drying, I have an awful lot of incomplete projects here tonight. But Whatever. Mm, people don't seem to like the square bowls anymore. I'll just turn it around. You done with it? Probably should take the 2 seconds out or 2 minutes out here. We'll go over here and start them. See if I can keep my head out of the way this time. Eliminate that problem and just take the face shield off. Get the right setup jig. Takes care of that one. Spindle gouges first. It sounds like I think my earbuds went dead. Should switch over to the TV, but if it didn't, I'll have to look at the chat as we go along. The bump. Okay.
Is that a midget?
That is a trying to think of the name. The woodcut. The one on the right, for me on the right hand side, is actually the woodcut system.
Hello everyone.
How are you this fine evening? Let me see if I can turn my TV volume up a little bit. My little earbuds died, so it's playing through the TV. Not that way. Not that way either.
At turned in Oz. Said. Ah yes woodcut trug rind. At turned in Oz. Said. ITLF.
So that'll work. So we'll get rid of the squareness. A little bit from both sides helps. Would help if I bring you back over here.
Camera.
Yep.
At TLF works. Sit. Can you change camera again? Austin 6814.
We got it. Bad habit. I thought I'd let you sit there and watch the grinder take forever to slow down and quit running.
Buy him dinner first.
Working man's got to eat.
At Albert Dawson 6814. At TLF works. Sit. Hi Al. Nat. AUS. At turned and off. Sit. You're Matt TLF. At turned and off. Sit. I'm Reese.
Reese from the land down under. Except Reese is going to tell you that it's summertime for you guys down there, right?
No. You have heard me your one was Doug Miller.
Oh, sorry.
Nice one, Tom. At Albert Dawson 6814. Sit. Nice to know people. LOL.
I'll tell you what, the wood turning community, mainly a bunch of really kind of nice people, as far as I'm concerned. Every once in a while you got to run into one of those people that's not very friendly, but for the most part, most everybody is.
turned to Oz. Said, Al, I saw your yo-yo. My favorite part was losing your phone, ha ha ha.
Don't pick on poor Al's yo-yo. He's trying to go back to his second childhood.
Said, not to me.
Okay. I'm not going to say anything about a yo-yo because I could never try to make one. Probably to go with that note, I probably will not try to make one, but that's generally what our shape's going to be.
The yo-yo was fine. I was more surprised how much he should be cast in Santa Claus movies.
Yeah, there's a guy in at the. I'm gonna go over here and put a quick little edge back on this scraper. I won't switch cameras that way. I won't mess up again. There's a guy in at the one gift store that we have stuff at that really has a really super full beard, and it is just Snow White. He plays Santa Claus for a lot of different things. And it's quite neat. Of course, he's like Al. He doesn't have much hair on the top part either. So.
Man, I was jealous. I can only hope mine looks that good in 30 years.
Well, for me, I don't need to worry about that because that is one thing that has never really materialized very well for me.
At Albert Dawson 6814 said, I spent over an hour again today trying to make the correct knot.
So we just give this a little bit of a rounded into shape at the top, just to make it more difficult.
At Albert Dawson 6814 said, for the yo-yo. At Turned in Oz said, your yo-yo demo actually inspired me to make a yo-yo or many. I'll use some of Jay's stains to make them pop.
That'll work.
At Albert Dawson 6814 said, I did the demonstration on a moment's notice.
Oh, quit making excuses, Al. That's what that sounds like to me, is an excuse. Okay. Make sure we're a little concave in there. We're good. Could have given a little bit more of a slope in there. Maybe a couple of grooves, just because. Back to the old trusty Sandaruni. And just because we can go over to there. Well, the speed down will sand better. See, that's admirable because you were willing to step up to the plate and do something. Especially on a moment's notice. At least that's the way I look at that. Okay. Well, everybody's got to have their thing that they like, so I think the Wednesday night group means a lot to quite a number of people. Kind of happy now that I'm retired and can pretty much make every Wednesday night. Also kind of gives me another excuse just to stay in the shop on a Wednesday. I should have just left that black shellac in there and turned this one black. Oh well. Yeah. Give it time. You'll get there.
discussing. I say I want to do it. She says that's expensive.
To the Gold Coast. Huh? Question is, what part of it is expensive? The part of just getting there, or the whole scenario of you got to, another one of them scenarios, just like for me to go to a symposium, you got to, for the most part, you got to travel there, and you got to stay in motels and eat dinner out every day. It gets kind of pricey in a hurry. Especially like the AAW symposiums once a year, the big symposium. I just saw that the other day advertised. What is it, like $350 entry fee or something like that?
Said, I know Ruby is coming over. Broken down, it's not that bad. 2 nights at com, all meals, all demos, and talks, etc., etc. The only additional cost is the flights, which aren't that bad.
Yeah, I don't know about over there. Yeah, that's my wife. She likes to go to her painting conventions, and the painting convention, I want to say it's in Oklahoma this year. The one she actually went to it last year, but I think she said Oklahoma again this year. The flights were like, I want to say she said about $600 or something like that, round trip. And now all the airlines are getting into the thing of charging you again for checked bags.
At Turndon Oz. Total would be about $500 including flights, accom, meal. Not including any random wood or tools I impulse buy.
Well, you got to buy tools. That's just a given. Yeah, you got to buy some tools. I'm just kind of being weird here a second, because I think if I give this maybe a little bit of a sort of a rounded shape rim. Something along those lines. Not really liking my rounded shape very well. But maybe I'll just up and turn this one black as well. I think I have about 6 or 8 of the blanks of the same size. So maybe I'll leave that one wider. Leave it at that, and I'll turn this black and do the grain fill on them. That'll give me 2 pieces for next week that we can do that with. If you've never seen it, it's kind of a simple process. It's kind of time consuming in a way. Well, congratulations for making it 52 years. I got a ways to go for that. We're, we're just coming up on 40, but so now just like before, now I can do this outside rim. Give that a touch with some hand sandpaper. It sort of left some, seems like it left a little sharp edge right there. Oh, I shouldn't have cleaned the airbrush. Get the gloves. You got a ways to go. But if you made, generally speaking, if you made it 10 years, you're in good shape anymore. Younger generation don't seem to make that very good. Let's go back to our black shellac. You don't have to do these in black either. It does need to be a dark color, sort of, unless you want to use some of the, there is some fillers, some of the Hempster Sheen fillers that are a light blue and a pink. And we'll see if we can get it off of there without making a mess. We'll give it a whirl of back to there. And just stick the chuck back in there. It's going to give me a place to hold on to it. Okay. Yeah, sit that down. Getting the stain in the oak open pores. Well, what I did is what you would do. You talk. Oh, I didn't want to towel back. Any sidetracked. This is filling the pores up. This is just for me. This is saving. This saves a step because in order to do the grain fill next, it needs to be sealed. Whether it's I use shellac, you could use a some sort of a cellulose or some sort of a sanding sealer over top of it. I just find it to be easier to just take and make it the color. And I generally use black for this grain filling thing. I've done some in a dark blue. I mean, you can do any of the colors. It depends on what color of a grain filler you want to put in over top of it, more so than anything. I do have some that are like gold and silver and stuff like that. That could be used over top of a red or something along those lines. But it needs to be sealed either way. So it's, to me, it's just a little bit, it saves you a step in some ways. Because any of the dyes, well, I shouldn't say any of the dyes. The dyes that I use are all alcohol based. So if I wanted, I also have some of the trans tint dyes, which is a concentrate. So if I wanted to dye something like, especially something like this that I want to grain fill a color, then I could do the same thing. I could just mix it in with some shellac because of what I'm going to do either way. I do have a piece. You weren't here when we first started, but I'll show you a piece here after I get this and done, because I'm going to hopefully I'm not rushing it too much. I did a handle for a pizza cutter earlier. That is strictly straight up dye, which is also, is again, it's an alcohol based dye. So before I even put any dye on, I sprayed it with alcohol to open the pores back up, which helps tremendously. And then you should be, usually can go right from there to putting dye on it. Open pore woods, you might have to work the dye in a little bit more than you would on something that would be like a maple or something like that. But these, most of the dyes really soak in quite quickly and quite easily. But you know, to do an oak is already a, I don't know what you want to consider it. I would consider it probably in the brown family. So I mean, whatever color you're going to put on there is going to be sort of muted. But I mean, this, you can see as I move it around, you can see the light and dark. The light areas being all the open pores of the grain. So I mean, that's where the grain fill is going to go in. Don't touch that with those gloves. Oh, I gotta go back to my, I don't.
At Turned-in-Oz said, oak and claret ash has similar pores on the rings. I have to come back and dab into the end grain.
The end grain did not soak it in, or it soaked too much in. Usually the end grain soaks too much in. Usually. So this is what I did at the beginning of the day, beginning of the evening. So it's had 2 hours plus to dry, which hopefully should be enough. This has a threaded insert in, that's why the kind of the Mickey Mouse setup. I did learn a while back that actually Woodcraft actually has a mandrel with 5/8 inch or 5, I think, or 5/16 threads on it, just for some of these kits. I don't. can't say that I'm a giant size fan of these kits, but as an employee, I get to buy these kits at a really reasonable price. So it's kind of like, I'm kind of like having to, kind of like dealing with what you got. So I'm just going to go over it a little bit with a little bit of
At turned and
800.
off. Said. I only use J stains at the moment, so they are water based. The denser, darker rings and grain wouldn't take stain with the lay dog.
Right, you want to do it. Well, you want to do it while it's not running anyhow, for the most part. I'm not a fan of the. I shouldn't say that. I don't use any of the water-based dyes. For one, I'm usually in too much of a bit of a hurry, I guess you'd say. I want them to dry quickly. I also use a super glue finish, which is what we're going to put on here. And if I'm going to use, like I say, I'm probably pushing the time envelope here on this as it is. Should have my gloves on. I'll have purple hands. Or magenta, this is called, this color is magenta. This one started out, we dyed it black at about 320 sanding wise. Went back to 220, sanded back through most of the black. There's always these little places that leave some behind.
I like the evenness I get from the lathe running. Easy to get too heavy-handed or go across it again and change the stain tone with it off. At turned and off.
Well, that's for the most part, that's really probably one of the only woods that I even mess with the dye. I mean, you can color a piece of wood that doesn't have any figure or anything like that in, but you're just going to get a sort of a whatever color it is, that's what it's going to be. So there's no variation to it. So I don't necessarily like that part. For me, I've done some of it. You can see it's not going to run even remotely true. This is the Parfix 3408. It's what I use primarily almost all the time on this kind of stuff. Anything that's finished natural. Now the ones that I dyed with the shellac and that, they will actually get a lacquer finish on them.
At Albert Dawson 6814. Said. I just got the first coat of lacquer on. I hate finishing.
Well, Al, when you come to level up and you come and watch me do this in person, you'll quit playing around with that lacquer so much. This does not get any easier. It doesn't run like you would if you're putting a lacquer finish or anything like that on. And I even have this, I have the spray equipment to actually spray it, which is the way I put it on as far as lacquer goes.
At turned and Oz.
Wipe it on, wipe off the excess.
Which did the burnishing tool the other week.
Burnishing tool. I'm not sure what you're referring to as a burnishing tool. Texturing, maybe? I probably did some of that because I was probably doing a top. I do have a couple of them. So we're wiping off the excess.
Said. Burr pulling tool on a scraper. At Albert Dawson 6814.
Burr pulling tool. Oh, no.
I can't be anywhere near that glue.
This doesn't smell. This does not give the off-gassing like the cheap stuff does, or the other stuff does, I should say. No.
At turned and Oz. Said. Mustn't have been you, LOL, another lot.
No, using a burnishing tool on a scraper, that would be Thomas. I won't even try and pronounce his last name from. I want to say Croatia. I think is where he's from. No, I don't. For one, I don't have a little burnishing tool. The burnishing tool I have is like a 3/8 inch rod or something like that, and I've never really tried to use a burnishing tool on it. Not saying that you can. I'm sure you can. I sort of like Richard Raffin's routine of where are we at, straight up and down. Let me get this. Let me take this out of here. So that's all there is to that. That I will leave sit overnight. Tomorrow I'll come back and buff it, put it together, and hopefully be in the place in the market that we're in right now. Should be there tomorrow.
At Albert Dawson 6814 said, I can hear your computer talking to you. That will put the earworms out of business.
Yeah. Wow, that's my earbuds went dead on me. And yes, the mic is more than enough to pick it up. But back to the other guy's question on that on a burnishing tool. I mean, Richard Raffin's routine of just taking the diamond hone up across that edge when it's dull, or when the burr is pretty much gone or used up or whatever. We'll put a nice, very, very small burr on there. But in all reality, it's just as easy to take the 20 steps over to the grinder and just put a new fresh burr on it. But yeah, I've seen that done on other things.
Said, that's Tomislav, Tommy. It wasn't him, it was someone that ordered a tungsten carbide rod and set it in a wooden handle just trying to figure out what thickness rod it was. At Albert Dawson 6814. Todd, do you hear this? Get a new contract with Doug.
Yeah. I saw you were. Are you the one? You're the one with the markers, the refillable marker pens thing. I just saw something on Instagram or one of them on that. So yeah, that would be an interesting thing. Yep. Well, guys, it's been real, but it's time to call it a day. Till next week. Next week we'll come back and we'll do some grain filler and some colors.
I'm not. That's Jay. I will keep my opinion to myself, but those are the stains I use.
Okay, what his markers are as if I remember correctly, I think he was on here with me once and was telling me about them. Those markers, sort of as he considers them a marker. They are a marker that's using a dye rather than. It's basically a marker with dye in it. Am I thinking along the correct lines?
At Albert Dawson 6814. Said, everyone have a good night.
Oh, you too, Al. Thanks for stopping by. I'll try and get on earlier Thursday or Wednesday night. See if I have anything to show. Put it that way.
At Terminos. Said, his colors are amazing. Work really well. Yeah, I'm not sure if his recipe. It's the person I'm keeping my opinion of.
Right, I understand that. Should never give an opinion on somebody else's stuff. Unless it's a good opinion, anyhow, put it that way. Um, but at any rate, we are going to call it a night, and we'll be back again next Sunday night, 5:30, 6 o'clock. I was a little early tonight, but until then, you all have a wonderful week. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't hit that cute little button that says subscribe, please do so. Could help me someday. Other than that, you all have a good week and stay safe in your shops.
At Turned in Oz said, nice guys.